and thank you for watching The Righteous Kitchen, a cooking and baking blog found at www.therighteouskitchen.blogspot.com. Okay, here is the ham. And like I said, I didn't cook this one to serve at a fancy dinner. It's not for any holiday or special occasion. It's just to simply cook it and use it in other recipes. So I have that, it's cooled. And then I have the roasting pan with the trivet, and I'm just gonna scrape off any of the juices from this trivet, and I'm gonna put it into a crock pot. And then I'm pouring all the juices into the crock pot. And any caramelized bits from this roasting pan, I'm gonna scrape them right in there too. So I'm gonna have the crock pot with these juices right off to the side. All this fat, I'm gonna go ahead and trim all the fat and put it right in the crock pot. But I don't wanna waste this fat. What I'm gonna end up doing is rendering this all down into the crock pot. So all this is gonna be flavor. So here's a bunch of fat right here. We get all the fat. We want all this fat to go into the crock pot, and that's gonna help us with our broth that we're gonna make. See how that fat's just peeling away? Now the bone, I don't worry about trimming this up too much. I like to have this meat here for the ham and beans. So I'm just gonna put it right in the crock pot, and that's gonna go, this is all gonna cook down until that meat just falls right off the bone. I'm gonna add probably a couple of cups of water to this. Look at all that fat and juices in there. I'm gonna add a couple of cups of water and then let it simmer till all this meat falls off the bone. And then I'm gonna defat it and then cube up the meat for ham and beans. All right, I'm just gonna cook this for several hours. And I put that in the crock pot with a couple cups of water and let it boil for several hours until the meat fell from the bone. So right now what I'm gonna do is separate the meat, and then I'm gonna strain the broth and let the broth sit overnight so that I can collect the fat off of it. And then the broth, I'm gonna put it, just strain it. And defat it. Is all of the fat that we discard, and then we only want to keep the meat. And actually once we separate it, the meat will fall down into the broth. So we could just put it in there. Here's a big piece. like that. That's all meat. You could put the meat in with the broth because the fat is still going to rise, and we'll be able to skim it off once it solidifies. But like if there's a piece of gristle, just pull that away. We put the ham hock in here that had a ton of meat on it. And we just let it boil to get all that flavor in there. So just take your time, and if it's a little bit hot for you, you can just chill everything if you need to do that. When it's warm, it's a little bit easier to separate. That's why I like to do it, because once it solidifies, then you have to take your time and you're just scraping off the fat. So if you could do it while it's warm, that's ideal. Now I want see all this fat, I want all that out. But I don't care if any liquid fat goes in, because the liquid fat is all going to rise up to the top, and I'll be able to scrape that off. Alright, so this is all of our discards from that whole ham. That 10 pounds of ham, and then this is all of our discards from that. And I'm going to just go ahead and press any liquid in here out. And since the crock pot is bigger, I'm going to just put it all in there. Alright. So tomorrow morning I'll just come in with a spoon and get all of the fat cap out of here, and then we'll proceed to make the beans. I am getting ready to prep the ingredients for our ham and beans. Now yesterday I baked a ham, and then I cooked the ham bone with the fat and the meat that came off the ham bone, and I have it all chilling in the refrigerator, and I'm going to show you in a few minutes after I get this prepped how that looks with the fat taken off and everything. But right now I want to show you how to sort the beans, and I am using northern beans for this recipe. And what I do is I have them on a surface that I can see the beans. So this brown cutting board works really well. And then I'm going to scoot it to the edge of my counter, and then at the bottom of this board is a bowl for them to go into. So you just, look them over, and you just put them in. You just scoot them into the bowl. You're looking for any pieces of dirt, any broken beans, any pieces of rock, anything like that. You just want the beans. You want to leave everything else behind. Now I have found the bagged beans are usually pretty clean. Where you might come into some problems are the bulk bins. That's where I always get a ton of rocks and dirt in the bulk bin. Now in this recipe, this is a 2-pound bag, and I'm gonna just use 1 pound. Okay, and I just have a few broken beans left. And I'm gonna soak these beans in some cold water. Okay, while I have this board out, I wanna go ahead and prep my vegetables. And I am using half of a small onion, 1 carrot, 1 stalk of celery. So, peeling your carrot, I always do it on the board. It's safer, you have better control. You're less likely to come back and scrape your nail. Cut the end, and then I just cut it in half, and I'm gonna dice this. Start with it in half, get a nice flat surface. I cut it into thirds on this one. And then, like I said, I want a nice dice. So I'm gonna cut those again, make them a bit smaller. And to tell you the truth, I think I'm only gonna go with a half of a carrot. I don't really want a lot of vegetables in this. And we'll see what the celery looks like in a second too. So just chop the ends. The celery, I like to put this right down the middle, lay your knife down. And then I'm gonna do that again. And then a half of a small onion. I'm using the vegetables just for a little coloring, but I don't want this ham and beans to be about the vegetables. We're gonna have a lot of, the flavor's really gonna come from the broth. And that's enough of this too. Probably about a half of a cup of the diced onion. All right, I'm gonna be back in just a moment. I'll clear this up and I'm gonna bring that broth and the ham, and we'll take a look at that. Okay, here's the broth and the ham. And you can see that the fat has risen to the top. So I'm just going to come in here with this spatula and get all of this fat off of the top of this. So this is all the fat that I scraped off of there. Basically, that's your lard. You could freeze it and use it to fry potatoes. I could use it to saute these vegetables in. But That's really a good way to get all of that lard out of your broth. So now I'm going to go ahead and scoop this out. And put it, now this, I'm not going to put this in the beans right away. I'm going to let the beans cook a little bit in the water before I add this to the beans. I don't want this, you know, to get evaporated. I'm going to let those beans cook a little bit before I add this, but this is all of our flavor right here. So I'm going to set this off to the side. Okay, I have the skillet out and I have it on low heat. I'm going to put a couple of tablespoons of cooking oil, and I'm also going to put half a stick of butter. Get that melted. And I'm going to go ahead and saute my vegetables. And I want these cooked just to where they're softened. I really don't want them to get brown. So I have everything diced really small, so it shouldn't take too long. All right, let's take a look at these. Just a little bit more. They're starting to soften, but we want them really soft. And this is on low. It's only on like 200 degrees. So that's a very low. Probably on your dial, on your stove, would be about a 3. I've diced these so small, it's hard to find a place to stab these. But I'm going to say these are done. They're nice and fork tender, and that's what you want. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. And then we'll carefully, because this is hot, you want to scrape all these vegetables in with your beans. So we've got them all in here. We've got the beans, the water to cover it by about 1/4 of an inch, and we've got our sauteed vegetables. Now these northern beans aren't going to take as long to cook as, say, a pinto bean or a red bean, but I'm going to cook it on high in my crock pot, and I'm going to check this in 1 hour. And then by that time, you know, some of the water should be evaporating. So I'll come back in 1 hour. Okay, it's been 1 hour since these beans have started cooking, and they're getting a little bit fat now. I'm just gonna look at them real quick. The water has, you know, evaporated now. It's starting to come under the beans. So we've lost a little bit of water. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pour some of the water out. That's most of the water is coming out now. All right. So what I'm going to do is, I've got these pieces of ham, and I'm going to break them down just a little bit. I still want them, you know, pretty good sized chunks. About like that. But look at this broth, how nice and rich it is. I want all the flavor really coming from this than from the vegetables. And we don't want, you know, real small pieces because we don't want them to shred in here. We still want them to be nice and chunky. And I'm going to save that water that we just took off of the beans. I'm going to save that in case we need it. I'm just kind of stirring it a little bit so that that can melt in there so the beans aren't, you know, dry on the bottom. So that's already melted. So what I'm going to do, and look how, this is some great ham and beans, you guys. Okay, what I'm gonna do is put this back on high heat and I'll be back in 30 minutes. We'll check on it. Okay, it's been a half an hour since I added the broth to these beans. They're still a little bit crunchy. I'm gonna check these in another half an hour. You wanna really keep a close eye on them so the beans won't turn to mush. Okay, we're at the 2-hour mark on these beans. Look at that little spoon. That's not gonna be helpful. Okay, let me give them a stir. And I'm just gonna pick a bean. We're almost there. You could eat these right now, but in that half an hour, they went from a little bit crunch to soft. And look at that. You want those beans to hold together. I'm gonna put this on here about 10 to 15 minutes and then they're done. Also, at about the 1.5 hour point on these is when you wanna get your cornbread mixed up and in the oven. So about the time the cornbread's done, these beans will be done. Okay, these beans are right at the 2.5 hour mark. That's how long they've been cooking in total. So I think they're done. I just get a bean out and test it. All right, that's very good. Nice and buttery, like they're supposed to be. And I'm gonna bring out my pan of cornbread. I have a beautiful pan of cornbread. I do have a video posted of that, most perfect cornbread recipe. I started out with a recipe and then made some improvements to it. I used less sugar, only 1 tablespoon of sugar. I did not like a sweet cornbread. And I also used buttermilk in my cornbread. So let's go ahead and serve this up. Now right away you can see that rich broth. We took our time and rendered all that pan juices, the fat, the bone and everything. It gave us this super rich ham broth. We reserved the broth and put it in a little bit after that first hour of cooking time so that we wouldn't waste it. Our beans are still whole. They're just done. They're not to the point. If you would cook these another half an hour, they would be mushy. So that's not what you want. You want a pleasing looking bowl of beans. So those are perfect. You can't really even see the vegetables that are in there. And when I baked the ham, I didn't put any seasoning on it. It's already salty. It tastes like ham. That's just the flavor that I wanted to expand upon. And I tasted these beans. They don't need any seasoning at all. All right, so what I'm gonna do here is get a slice of cornbread. Look at that cornbread. And oop, that fell right off of there. I'm gonna just put it right on the plate next to the beans. Nice hot cornbread. Put a dollop of butter on there. There we go. And it doesn't get much better than that. This is comfort food right here. Ham and beans. All right, I hope that you've enjoyed this recipe. If you try it, please comment in the comments and let me know how it turned out for you. And please share this video with your friends. They need to know how to cook also. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you on that next video.